The options market can be a confusing place. Sorting through the daily avalanche of data, alerts, updates, articles, and analysis to find the most important information is an overwhelming prospect. But now you have help. Welcome to the Options News Rundown, the only program that breaks through the noise to bring you the most important news and information from the world of options. Every day, we bring you the top 5 option stories curated by the options experts at theoptionsinsider.com, the premier source for options information. The Options News Rundown is brought to you by LevelTradingField.com, the online communication, research, and quantitative platform with the largest collection of financial tools for traders, including the innovative Bitcoin Market Predictor. The Bitcoin Market Predictor is a simple prediction game where 10 people place bets on the future price of Bitcoin, and the top 3 most accurate predictions wins. Sign up at LevelTradingField.com with promo code INSIDER. The Options News Rundown is also brought to you by Market Taker Mentoring, the leader in options trading education. Get trader education, daily trade ideas, and more with a free 1-week trial of Market Taker Mentoring's Live Advantage Group coaching class by visiting markettaker.com/insider. And now it's time to break through the noise. It's time for your Options News Rundown.
Good morning. Today is February 6th, 2018. This is your Options News Rundown. I'm Dan Passarelli. The first story today is from CNBC.com. The obscure volatility security that's become the focus of this sell-off is halted after an 80% plunge. Multiple exchange-traded securities that are supposed to be bets on calm markets were halted Tuesday after losing the majority of their value overnight. The Velocity shares daily inverse VIX short-term exchange-traded note, XIV, which had fallen roughly 85% in after-hours trade, has been halted pending news early Tuesday. The security issued by Credit Suisse is supposed to give the opposite return of the CBOE VIX, the market's widely followed turbulence gauge. Credit Suisse said late Monday Eastern Time that the XIV's plunge would have no material impact on the Swiss bank itself, though a source familiar with the news told CNBC that the investment bank was considering redemption of the ETN, but had yet to make a final decision. Shares of Credit Suisse slumped nearly 4% on Tuesday morning amid the wider sell-off in equity markets. The XIV ETN activity is reflective of today's market volatility, the bank said. There's no material impact to Credit Suisse. All that being said, we come to our second story today from CNBC as well. U.S. stock futures point to a third day of big losses. Global markets plunge. U.S. stock index futures paired significant losses ahead of Tuesday's open, but still pointed to a sharply lower negative open as the sell-off continues to weigh on sentiment worldwide. During Monday's late hours, Dow futures were down 826 points, and S&P 500 futures were lower by 76.5 points. That's as of 11:25 p.m. Eastern Time, indicating that the implied open for the Dow, based on futures, was a decline of 1203.75. Around 7:25 a.m. Eastern Time, Dow futures were indicating a roughly 540-point drop at the open. S&P 500 futures suggested a decline of 50 points, and NASDAQ futures indicated a 99-point drop. CBOE Volatility Index, widely considered the best fear gauge on Wall Street, surged to 49.21. The third story today is from MarketWatch.com. U.S. trade deficit in Trump's first year soars to 9-year high of $566 billion. The U.S. trade deficit in December and for the full year both rose to the highest level since 2008, complicating efforts by President Trump to fulfill his vow to reduce the gap. The deficit in December rose 5.3% to $53.1 billion, the Commerce Department said Tuesday. Economists polled by MarketWatch had forecast a $52.2 billion gap. Imports increased to 2.5% to a record $256.5 billion in December. Exports edged up 1.8% to $203.4 billion, also a new high watermark. Our third story today is from investing.com. Top 5 things to know in the market on Tuesday. So the first thing to know is, of course, Dow futures swing violently in a battle to recover from historic sell-off. U.S. stock index futures pared significant losses ahead of Tuesday's opening bell, but Dow futures still pointed to a negative open as a historic sell-off continued to weigh on sentiment worldwide. During Monday's late hours, Dow futures were down by as much as 850 points at one point, while the S&P 500 futures were lower by around 100 points. But futures made a sharp U-turn in Europe, erasing most of their declines in an extremely volatile overnight trading session. By around 3:45 a.m. Eastern Time, Dow futures reversed losses to rise some 100 points, with the NASDAQ and S&P 500 futures also recovering somewhat. The roller coaster ride continued with Dow futures last night down around 100 points, or 0.4%, while the S&P 500 NASDAQ futures pointed to modest gains at the open, with both up around 0.2%. We shall see. Second thing to know today is global stock market rout spreads to Europe and Asia. Stock markets across Asia and Europe nosedived after the steepest fall on Wall Street in 6 years shattered years of calm. Asian equities were covered in a sea of red, with Japan's Nikkei tumbling 4.7%, or 1,071 points, its largest such decline since the UK's vote to leave the European Union in June of 2016. Benchmarks in China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan all suffered declines of 3 to 5%. Third thing to know today is VIX Volatility Index soars to highest since August of 2015. The CBOE Volatility Index reached its highest level since August 2015, crossing above the 40 level as U.S. stocks continued their wild ride. Since 1990, the index's average has been 19.3, but during the past 3 years of market calm, that figure has been below 13. Fourth thing to know is Bitcoin continues to tumble, briefly breaking below 6,000. Bitcoin prices were on the back foot yet again, briefly breaking down below the 6,000 level as a sell-off sparked by fears over tighter regulation of cryptocurrencies deepened. Bitcoin was down around 16% at $6,535 on the Bitfinex exchange, after falling as low as $5,947 earlier, the weakest level since mid-November. With that decline, Bitcoin has now lost roughly 60% for the year so far. And the fifth thing to know is the dollar and bond yield snapback. The U.S. dollar slipped along with government bond yields after earlier gaining when investors had dumped riskier assets for the relative safety of the greenback and bonds, but currency and debt markets were generally calm compared with the rout in equity markets. The dollar index, which gauges the U.S. currency against a basket of 6 major rivals, is a shade lower at $89.40. The sell-off across world stock markets sent investors rushing into the dollar on Monday, helping the U.S. currency perform well against the euro, British pound, and commodity-linked currencies. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all the news I've got for you today, February 6th, 2018. I'm Dan Passarelli, Trade Smart. Go get 'em.
The Options News Rundown is brought to you by LevelTradingField.com. the online communication, research, and quantitative platform with the largest collection of financial tools for traders, including the innovative Bitcoin Market Predictor. The Bitcoin Market Predictor is a simple prediction game where 10 people place bets on the future price of Bitcoin, and the top 3 most accurate predictions wins. Sign up at leveltradingfield.com with promo code INSIDER. The Options News Rundown is also brought to you by Market Taker Mentoring, the leader in options trading education. Get trader education, daily trade ideas, and more with a free 1-week trial of Market Taker Mentoring's Live Advantage Group coaching class by visiting markettaker.com/insider.